Damn it, come on, stay up there.
You gotta yank it to the side, Peter.
I'm yanking it as far as it goes.
You gotta catch it on the thing.
Oh, that's helpful.
The left side's getting lower than the right side.
I can see what's happening.
Now twist it.
All right. See? Now it's open.
Hello, everyone. So, almost a year ago, in February 2025, Andrej Karpathy, who was the previous one of the founder of OpenAI and previous head of AI at Tesla, he posted on X, "I found a new way to develop programs. I accept all, always. I don't read the diffs anymore. When I get error messages, I just copy-paste them with no comment. It's not really coding. I see stuff, I say stuff, I run stuff, and I copy-paste stuff. And it mostly works. I call it vibe coding." This was a year ago. And after that, the recent year, Andrej Karpathy did a follow-up in February this year. The goal now with AI-based development is to claim their leverage from the use of agents, but without the compromise on quality of the software. He now calls it agentic engineering. And it's agentic because you're orchestrating work with agents. And it's engineering because there's an art, a science, and an expertise to it. My name is Johan Sanneblad, and I'm the CEO of Token Tech. We have a booth in the exhibition hall. And I'm also the author of a program called Notebook Navigator. I've been building software, production software with Agentic AI since the summer 2024, when Claude Sonnet 3.5 was first launched. And this talk is based on one chip product. And it's also the same process we use at Token Tech for many clients right now for large-scale production systems. So you will get the deep dive in how we develop our software to get the maximum quality out of it. So, what is Notebook Navigator? It's a plugin for the markdown text editor Obsidian, which has around 10 million users.
The way you navigate files in Obsidian is completely outdated. With the new Notebook Navigator plugin, 3 minutes of setup will upgrade your note-taking every single time you open your vault again. How to install the plugin and the best things it can do is exactly what we're going to look at now.
Alright, for showcasing the plugin, I've actually prepared a sample vault. As we can see, our file navigation menu is actually very boring. There aren't any file previews, we can't pin things, there aren't recent files or anything, but all of this is about to change. By going into our Obsidian settings, then to community plugins, making sure you even have them enabled, click on Browse and search for the Notebook Navigator plugin by Johan Sanneblad. Click Install and then click on Enable. And I mean, yeah, already this looks absolutely beautiful. If your view differs from mine, for example...
Yeah, so this is basically how it looks. It takes the fairly bland interface of Obsidian and replaces it with something that resembles something like Evernote or Apple Notes. Basically, when I did it, I took inspiration from most of the applications like OneNote, Evernote, Apple Notes, Bear, Joplin. Every good feature you could find in these apps, I just put them in here to get this extremely flexible system for browsing notes and working with notes. Of course, I also added mobile support, so it works on Android and iOS devices as well. I released the first version in September last year. And it's right now over 220,000 lines of code. I have over 1,000 test cases. And since the last year, I have done myself over 3,000 commits to GitHub for it. As of September, I now have around 500,000 downloads from it. And it's already among the top 50 most downloaded plugins for Obsidian, which is out of 2,700 plugins. At GitHub, I recently passed 2,000 GitHub stars. And the plugin is written by one person, myself, and it's 100% written by AI. There have been no critical issues since launch. Some of the issues, of course, is logical issues, where I thought wrong and gave the wrong instructions to the AI. Or maybe one user had a PDF file with 150 layers. Of course, that was difficult to predict. But other than that, no bug issues related to the quality of the code. This is a complex application. It's as a 5-phase startup with a cold boot and warm boot paths. It has a multi-layer storage systems. It has a database with IndexedDB. It has a memory cache and several bounded least recently used caches for thumbnails and previews. It also has a background content pipeline to processing images and documents with batching, debouncing, and deferred scheduling. It supports 21 languages, including R2L, Arabic, and Hebrew, and it runs on PC, Mac, Linux, iOS, iPadOS, and Android. And this was written by me. I mean, I run the company as a CEO at spare time in evenings and weekends. Just put that into context if you have development projects at your companies. The feedback has been like phenomenal. This is just some of the comments. I think my favorite feedback is this one. Hi, Johan. I'm not so active. This is on Reddit. My name is Steve Chen. I was the CTO and one of the co-founders of YouTube. I love what you built with Notebook Navigator. I wanted to send out a note of gratitude. So, how did I do it? In May 2025, Anthropic launched Claude Code and Opus 4.1.0. And now it's suddenly possible to build real applications with AI. This was the breaking point. Before that, I've been struggling with Sonnet 3.5 and trying to get somewhat complex applications, but it wasn't possible to build like a full stack application like this before. It was built in 3 phases. The first one was proof of concept. Is it possible at all to build this? Then I added virtualization for the list to improve performance. And then I added database support in the 3rd phase. Each phase was a full refactor, so most of the code was rewritten for each phase here. In July 2025, it was getting more and more difficult working with Claude. If you have worked with Claude Code and Opus, you know that as soon as the code base grows into over 100,000 lines of code, it's getting more and more difficult for Claude to find the right things in your source code base. So I switched over to OpenAI Codex in August. And this entire project was built with what I call agentic engineering. And this is what this talk is about. So you who arrived now, you didn't miss anything. It was just the intro. This talk is about the 4 success factors to succeed with agentic engineering. The first one is that you need to become an expert in context window management. The second part is that you always need to iterate all generated code by the AI. The third is you need a repeatable process with the manual reviews. And the fourth is you need to use a standardized prompt for all reviews. So I'm going to go through these 4 one by one. First one, become an expert in context window management. The way an AI works today, any model, is that it has something called a context window, which is a temporary memory where you put things it needs to know in order to generate code. If it doesn't have things in the small memory, it doesn't know what to generate. So basically, it's your prompt, instructions, and relevant parts copied from around the code base. The model writes code only what's stored in this small memory box, the context window. That is the only thing it knows in order to generate the code. So when you ask the AI to build a feature, it fills up the context window with file structure and relevant knowledge from your code base. So how does it know what to load into this? Well, it kind of guesses. It searches search tools and different terminal commands to push things into this small window. And depending on what it finds when it does the task, the generated code will look different from time to time, but depending on what it finds. And the bigger your code base is, the more difficult it will be to get the right things into it. But this is one of the more skills. You can control it, what you want to put in there. If you specify what it should look for, you take basically control over what's in the context window. And this is a skill that takes months, maybe years to master. It's not only about how to design patterns and files in the current code base, it's also how it's used. For example, in my application, I had a folder list. I know that most users don't have tens of thousands of folders, but the AI doesn't know that. It doesn't know that you don't need to optimize for tens of thousands of folders. It's enough with maybe hundreds or maybe thousands at most. So my knowledge of how it's used should also be in the context window. This is kind of the key skill of you as an agentic engineer to put not only the right information from the code base, but how it will be used by the user in the end. And the AI can't know that. You also always need to iterate the code because the AI does one task at a time. If you ask it to build a feature that spans maybe 10 files, it does that. But before it builds it, you need to check for duplicated code. It builds it before it can see if it can be optimized. It doesn't know if there are like external code that has conflicts. And it doesn't know if there are rare edge cases in conflict. It can't do all this at once. So this is when you generate things or code with the AI, you always need to run multiple iterative prompts. You generate code first, and then you iterate it to improve the quality out of it. This is kind of the key factor to succeed in agentic engineering. This is why you need a repeatable process to work with these iterations all the time. This is the process I've been using since the past year with Notebook Navigator. I'm not going to go into too much details here about it works, but I have my waypoints where I review the code. For example, I review the plan before I pass into letting the AI build it. Then I review the code structure. And then I ask the AI to reiterate things. And I review all the findings from the iterations, and I also review the final source code. So I have these kind of 4 checkpoints at the process where I do my stuff. And every single commit I've done, every single feature has passed through this process for the past year. This is how I guarantee that it has high quality for all commits. So you should always treat AI-generated source code as like a first draft. Always follow the process, tweak and improve the process over time. Standardize the prompts you use for all tasks. And skills is a great way of doing that. Always clear the context memory between each iteration. You need the small memory box, because if you run it multiple times, it will pick different things. Every time you run it, you will get different things from your repo, which means that it will find things it didn't find before. So remember, if your code base is this big, your context memory is this small, and you will need to handpick things from it. So this is why I always need to run it many times iteratively to review the code. But if you do enough iterations here, the AI-generated code can actually reach a quality level that is very hard, almost impossible to do with normal developer teams. Because the AI can take the time to do tests and documentation and basically test all different branches in a way that most human teams don't have the patience to do. If you don't have a process, you're not doing agentic engineering. You're basically vibe coding in production. Very few companies today use a process with agentic engineering. The main challenge is for everyone to follow this process. You need at least one person in the team who knows the process and can actually make sure people follow it. And if you don't have that person, you need to hire one. We have tried with many companies teaching them the process and then leaving them to follow the process. Most of the time, it doesn't work. You need someone in the team to actually keep the process going and working. Because it's easy to just keep falling back to letting the AI do stuff for you. You need discipline to do this the right way. You also need to standardize prompts. And in my case, the most important thing is for all the reviews I do for the code. Always use the same prompts for reviews. And if you don't have one, you write one. This is my prompt I use for reviews. I'm not going to go through that in detail as well. The presentations will be published online. But basically what it does, it checks for crashes, unexpected behavior, things that can be cleaned up, and things that can be optimized. Typically I run this with 3 subagents in parallel that does all the things in parallel, and I run it many times. At least 3 times for every small feature, sometimes 20, 30 times. It can take days for this prompt to run for some complex features. I run it until it doesn't find more things to improve. When it only kind of finds things that are minor things, when I'm ready to ship, I add this, important, I want to ship it now. If you find anything we must fix, propose simple solutions. And this changes the threshold of the prompt. So it goes from improvement ideas to blockers. And in practice, how does it look? Typically, writing a prompt, 10 or 15 minutes. I write fairly big prompts. Then I let the AI work for 40 minutes to do the plan implementation. This is one feature, 6 review rounds. It took maybe 90 minutes. So the total time is 2 hours from idea to shipped feature. which means that you spend around 20 minutes of effective manual work every hour. So if you only work with one AI agent, there are lots of waiting around for the AI to finish. This is, if you look at OpenAI, engineers there work with 5, 7, or 10 different processes in parallel. So what you can do is, when you're getting used to this process, you check out different branches in 2 or 3 folders, and you let them work in parallel. So you spend 20 minutes there, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes there. You can easily work with 3 agents in parallel. But of course, this takes months to get up to speed. You first need to learn the process, how to work with it for one agent. And then you can upskill it to work with 2 or 3 or 5 agents in parallel. So to wrap up, if you're working with agentic engineering, you need to have a process. So I would say if you don't have one today, go to work tomorrow and start looking at how can we define our process? How should it look like? You can use my process as a starting point. You need to standardize the prompts you use with skills. So you always use the same prompts. So from the to generate the planning, to do the first implementation, to do the review, to do the final review, all these prompts should be standardized and set up so you can improve them over time. You need to have like a standard AI review prompt, so you can use it every time to review the code and increase the quality. And I challenge you to run your next feature at work tomorrow through this kind of full loop. Define the process and try it, how it works. It will feel kind of much work from the start, but the quality will be greatly improved. I regularly hold workshops in agentic engineering at different companies. And the first session I do is teach them basically to write the code, then run my super prompt I pasted here, showed you recently, to see how many things it can find to improve. And many people are actually surprised that the code runs, it looks good, but when they run the review prompt, it always finds things to improve. It's extremely rare that you run AI-generated code through the prompt and it can't find things to improve. So if I want to summarize this, is that AI generates code, but to get the quality, you need to iterate the code. So before I wrap up, and we can have time for questions, I would say that if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you have my QR badge here. And I will also be at the booth in the exhibition hall if you want to add follow-up questions later as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johan. This was great. We have many questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
First question. Regarding your tip of using standardized review prompt, how do you maintain consistency in your review process when standardized prompts may behave differently across model versions or providers?
Yeah. So I showed you my super prompt. Maybe I can just go back to this prompt quickly like this. Here you have it. So how do I maintain the same quality moving between different models? And the thing is that it's not. You will get different results when you run this with Opus and you run this with GPT 5.4. This one is right now optimized for 5.4. When I run this at GPT 5.4, I get consistent results and I know what to expect. Because the thing is that when you run this prompt with the model, it will always try to find things. Because the model wants to do the things. If you ask the prompt to find things, it will do everything it can to be helpful and find things. So it will never stop finding things. So when I run this with GPT, I mean, I know when it starts finding things that are not really issues. And I think that is the threshold, because that is different between models. Right now, I'm very comfortable with, I know when GPT finds things that are not issues, but more proposals. But it's different when you use it with Opus. So the models are very, very different. And it's very difficult. It's like almost like comparing developing for iOS and Android, because it's so different perspectives on development. And working with the models, it's almost the same.
Thank you very much. Yes, these answers, definitely. We have another question, slightly rephrased. It's a bit provocative, but the audience wants to know, how do you think about authorship and ownership when a program is entirely generated by AI? How do you take credit properly?
Yes. So in my case, I only use the AI. I describe the feature, what it should do. So in my case, I always own the plan and the feature. So I don't let AI do the planning. It does the implementation plan, but when it comes to requirement specification, that comes from me, and I spend a lot of time with it. So I spend 10 or 15 minutes for each prompt. So this is what I feel where I own the feature. Then the AI, of course, spends time writing the actual code. But if you just follow the legal rights and so on, it's of course I own the IP for it as well, since I follow the license agreements from the model providers.
Thank you so much. That's a great answer. Yeah. Another piece of curiosity from the audience. This sounds very expensive. How much are you spending per month on tokens plus subscriptions?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because I use this kind of fixed price subscriptions. So OpenAI and Anthropic has this, you pay 200 euros every month and you get really a lot of tokens. But you can also count if you instead had to spend API cost for it. I mean, if you're just using API and not had this kind of flat rate subscription, I would end up around 100,000 kronor every month and that is like spare time programming. So yeah, 10,000 euros every month in token cost. And I think this is somewhere where we are ending up with in the coming year. I think these flat rate subscriptions, you can see in Anthropic, they don't have any more bandwidth. Their GPUs are full, and it's right now becoming difficult to use them. Microsoft recently introduced big rate limits to Copilot, for example, just to use the Anthropic models. So I think prices will go up, but it all comes down to how much value you get out from it.
Thank you very much. I have a last question for you. It creates a nice link with the keynote, although it was applying this concept to another domain, but the reasoning is that, do you agree that we will move away from text-based prompts in the future? If so, to what?
Yes, is this answer? No, the thing I think I like the most when writing the prompts is you have this sentence that a picture says more than 1,000 words. So I miss the whiteboard. I would really like to be able to draw on a whiteboard to sketch and have this kind of collaborative discussion with someone else, because this is how you're the most creative. This is why you sit together in an office and work together, collaborative environment. It's just to sit together and draw things on a whiteboard. This is the main thing I miss, because you need to type and describe the things how it should work. So give me a digital whiteboard with the AI, and things are improving. I mean, if you look at the latest Claude Opus 4.7, it now can support almost 4K resolution. You can theoretically have it work with a whiteboard now. It wasn't possible 6 months ago, but we are moving in that direction. So the models are getting smarter, and I think that is the natural next step, being able to illustrate and sketch and discuss things that way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you remember when I said that that was the last question? Well, you're so efficient that you're getting an extra question.
Good.
Great. So do you predict that agentic engineering is something exclusively for engineers, or will people with other background than engineering become agentic engineers?
It's a good question. It's the thing is that developing software is always about compromises. And I think a good example of that is Mac OS versus Windows, where Windows has prioritized low latency. So if you move Windows around, you always have this flicker happening. Mac OS prioritizes non-flicker, which means that you have longer latency. So when you move a mouse, it takes longer time before something updates. There's like no right or wrong solution here, but you need to decide which solutions is best for you, your company, and your customers. And I think this is when it comes down to agentic engineering as well, because you need to tell the AI, this is the direction you should go, and you're basing this based on your company and your target group and the needs and the strategy you're holding for this product you're developing. And that is something the AI can't take decision in yourself, and you need strong computer science skills to do that.
Thank you very much. And with this, I will for real wrap the Q&A and give a round of applause for Johan. Thank you again. And please accept our gift. Thank you so much, Kat.